Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Welcome to a special extra credit episode of We Weren't Friends in High School, the podcast where I reunite with high school classmates from my school of Wissahickon High School in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I'm Brad Corbett, class of 2001. Today is a special episode in that it's not a Monday morning. It is a Thanksgiving Thursday, and this episode is not with someone from my class. This episode is with Derek Cataldi, class of 1999. Derek is someone that's been mentioned now 3 times on the podcast, and it was just kind of coincidence as Thanksgiving was coming up. I really wanted to have a surprise episode for everyone to enjoy over the long break. And Derek was really interested in coming on the podcast to talk about some of the things that we alluded to as far as his progression through tech school and what he's doing now with his career. We thought it was a really good opportunity to put the word out there for young people who are in school now, who are looking to, learn something about tech school, about trade, about the union. And so Derek is here to lend his expertise in addition to talking about his high school life. You can follow the show on Instagram. We Weren't Friends in High School. If you follow it already, you might have already seen that there was going to be an episode today. If not, there you go. The Twitter is WWFINHS. And of course, this podcast is available on all platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever you use. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping notes. One last thing, and this is just a weird thing. I'm super sensitive about it. I've got some weird radio going on in the building of my apartment here in Philadelphia. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't actually have neighbors. What I do have, though, is a shop that is below me that closes at night. I don't know. I think they're leaving the radio on at night. And I make mention of it at the very end of this interview, but man, is it getting on my nerves. So I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it. I've been noticing it for a little bit now. And so I'm going to have to start asking people now that I'm pretty sure I'm not going crazy. So if you hear someone talking or some sports scores going on in the background, very, very faint, that is what it is. You also are not crazy. All right. And with that said, here's your extra credit episode. Derek Cataldi. So Derek Cataldi, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Brad.
Did you have more to that? Or is that it?
I will pause a lot because that is the William Shatner effect of what would Shatner do? Mm-hmm. And that's a public speaking thing when he would go, if you don't say amen or like.
Sometimes I find, when I slow down and I just am a little bit more purposeful with the words that I say, then I won't use filler words and sounds. I can just kind of keep myself a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. It's also, no matter how many times people say, like, I won't feel uncomfortable because there's a microphone in my face, because it's just us hanging out, having a conversation. In the back of your mind, this is being recorded and it is going to be broadcasted eventually. Mm-hmm. So everybody has jitters. And every time I stand up to do public speaking or do comedy, you get them jitters. If you don't, you're not a human. You just have to tell yourself, this is you being human. Yes. Pump the brakes, get through it, and just call my name already so I can get up there.
Man, so we're going to go way ahead of time, but so you were, you used to do some stand up, and I once in my life did open mic stand up when I first moved down here. There's a bar a couple blocks away that was doing open mics in the basement. So I went down there, and this was kind of what I came to the city in the first place to do, work on my writing, make connections with comedians, maybe find some sort of collaborations that I can do. So I went to this place, and I went down there, and a little buzzed, of course, and I sign up, and man, it had to be an hour and a half until I got called. And the whole time my heart is just when are they going to call me? When are they going to call me? And then they call me and I'm like, oh God, now after that guy, now it was the hardest thing. And I never went back because anytime I thought about it, and you hear about this when people talk about, do you really want it? And I love stand-up comedy. I love stand-up comedians. But when they talk about, do you want it? They talk about when you're doing open mic, man, you don't go until 1:30 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning sometimes. And you got to be ready to go. And that's not me.
It is a full-time second job if you really want it, because you are going to these open mic nights and such. It is next to impossible to get a gig.
Yeah.
And the rule to be a professional comedian is you need 10,000 hours on stage in a 7-year period.
Wow.
You have to videotape that and then watch it and figure out your laughs per minute. And you need 3.5, was it 3.5 laughs per minute? I'd have to go back and listen to the audiobook to figure that one out. It's no joke. That's why everybody's YouTube funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not Jim Carrey, like Dave Chappelle, Richard Pryor funny. Like you,
yeah.
It's work. It's no joke.
We'll keep working on Jim Carrey funny as time goes on. You've totally changed the way that I speak right now. I'm trying to keep up with you in slowing down, not using filler words. It's something that I mentioned when I edit, I notice. But now that you do it, I'm like, well, I'll just start doing it. And this podcast is going to be 7 hours long.
It's easier because it can keep somebody's attention. The average human being waits 17 sounds before they try to interject.
Really?
Yeah. So we, at least in America, are taught to be good spellers, good communicators, good enunciators, not good listeners.
Yes.
So that has been one of the biggest things for me, because I was more of an introvert when I was in like middle school, and I became more of an extrovert in high school. Mm-hmm. And anybody who saw how I look like knows that. So being able to not talk and listen with intent is a skill I am still learning and getting better at.
This podcast really helps me do that. When I talk and especially when I drink and I get very excited and we start talking about something like sports or politics, that is when I get really, really animated, and my brain just starts going, and I can't slow down, and I can't rest the thought that I have. I need to say it right now, because I know what you're going to say. I know the point you're trying to make. So let me just stop you and interject my counterpoint. And in dating, girls would start to tell me. I had like 1 or 2 girls that told me years past, like, you really like interrupt a lot, or it's hard to have a conversation. And for me, it's competitive conversations at times it's like a competitive sport. Who can make their point better? And I really had to start to work on that, because people were telling me it was kind of getting on their nerves. And so this podcast especially helps me learn that, because I don't want this podcast to ever be me talking about stuff, for 15 minutes or even a 9-minute soliloquy. And so when people start talking in my brain, I'm just going, shut up, don't say anything, listen, then react after the fact. So
I tried to make it a point to never talk religion or politics. When drinking, that's just a no-no. So if you want to make your holidays a lot more simpler, just ask people who they voted for.
That's it.
It's almost impossible in this day and age.
It is.
To not talk about politics. And because it's pretty obvious that this country's so divided, I don't like to talk politics. I like to ask people.
Yeah.
Like, why'd you vote for this person? What's the reason?
Yeah.
Because you can't tell people and convince them. You have to get them to say things to convince them to your way of thinking.
Especially in today's world, where I think people have the conversation so many times over and over with different people. They've heard the same arguments over and over. And so whether you consider yourself right wing or left wing or centrist or liberal or conservative, when you're arguing someone with a different point, it almost only takes 5 words before you know exactly the point that they're going to, which automatically sets you up for your argument that you've been built to express in response to that. And it just becomes no one's even like listening to them as a person for why they actually feel a way that they feel.
It's defense mechanism.
It is.
We're human, and it's in our DNA. I still think, at least in like the eastern part of the states, there's like 20% on one side, 20% on the other. And then the 60% in the middle, regardless of what you're registered or vote or how you see things, you're actually similar on a lot more subjects than you might actually give the time to hear somebody out because of the first 3 major subject matters.
Yeah. Do you enjoy it though, personally? Do you enjoy it just for your own consumption? Like I get it when people don't want to talk politics, and so in most cases, I'll give them that, and I don't talk it at work or anything like that. But I love sitting down by myself watching a debate or watching an hour or two of some national news.
I enjoy any debate. That's a polite way of putting argument,
Yeah.
because you could find out how people communicate on their political beliefs if you can actually, as an Italian, sit on your hands so you don't talk and just listen to people. And it's still a skill I am trying to learn. Listen, and listen with intent. So sure, fire at me, and hopefully I'll catch myself getting emotional, shutting up and not firing back, and hearing you out until you're done, which is tough because when people get fired up, they tend not to talk, and tend not to stop talking.
It's different for everyone, but I find when you're able to have those type of communications, conversations, people appreciate it so much more, and they almost expect you to cut them off, to stop them at certain trigger phrases, words, and when you let them go, it kind of changes that you heard them out, and I like that. I really, really enjoy. I really enjoy the sport of debate, conversation, figuring each other out. It's cool to me.
I enjoy communication with all walks of life because everybody's been through something we haven't. So if you just keep your mouth shut, you're going to find out about them.
Yeah.
And you can meet the most humble person that's went through the hardest time ever. And if you try to interject, you're going to miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
Butterfly effect. Boom.
Well, this is one of those conversations, this is going to, that's what this is. And
this podcast is because of a butterfly effect.
This is a butterfly effect, man. I'm trying to listen and take it in. And you mentioned, at some point people are going to hear this. People are going to hear this in 2 days. Today is Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. I am going to turn this thing around, and it's going to come out Thursday morning. So surprise everybody. We're dropping on it. Everyone's been saying, when are you going to do one? Like, I need like the weeks condensed. I need it. So I'm going to drop one now on Thursday, Thanksgiving. You're still going to get your regular Monday one next week. But we've been talking about you for so many episodes now, which I don't know, wasn't anything I ever thought was going to happen. Right? Completely surprising. We started talking about tech school. Your sister has been on the episode 103. Go check that out with Danielle Cataldi. And we kind of started going on a theme of tech school. And I feel very strongly about tech school in that I feel like I kind of missed an opportunity. Just telling you, like, I hate that I don't know how to fix anything. None of my family fixes stuff. I don't have a lot of friends that fix things. And so, something from my car to my air conditioner, I wish I knew how to do those type of things. And so we mentioned it again with Danielle, or with Alea, and then again with Kim. And so it kind of worked out perfectly that you were down to talk, and I'd love to know a little bit more about that. But before we get to you building things with your hands, I want to know a little bit about your life growing up. We heard about it from Danielle's side. You are 2 years older than we are, correct? 2 classes ahead.
Yeah, 19 months older than my sister.
So we're class of 01. You were class of 99?
99. What?
It's funny because when
before Y2K.
before the Y2K, when you guys were having your class reunion, that was the summer,
Yeah, just
right?
this past summer.
This past spring during the music fest that was going on, and it's funny because you're 2 years ahead of us, but I almost feel like you were just like the next year because the people that your sister were mentioning to me that were there, and just seems also familiar. What was your experience kind of with Ambler, with friends and Wissahickon as far as just a small, I feel like you're part of a group that is still very visible in Ambler. And so I imagine you've got a good group of people that you are still in complete contact with.
Yeah, when I was in middle school, I was a little bit of an introvert, an introvert. When I got into high school, I started going down to 38th and Lancaster for punk rock shows.
Yeah.
I was not goth. I'm sorry, everybody who said I was goth. I never had a trench coat. I'm too short to own a trench coat. They would scrape against the ground.
So you consider yourself punk? Would you have been punk then?
Oh, absolutely.
Hard metal?
I listened to a lot of hard metal. I started drumming when I was 16 years old.
Heavy metal? Is that the
heavy metal?
heavy metal?
Now I'm full spectrum.
But not goth.
No.
Did you wear black nail polish?
Hell no.
See, that would be like the final, like, okay, that's goth. But if you didn't wear black nail polish, then I don't. Where did you hear that you were goth? Where would this?
My just recent 20-year reunion.
But did you, growing up when you were in that era, were people saying
absolutely not?
You didn't. So you didn't know it then that was what people thought.
No.
It's only now that you just go, wait, what?
Yeah, it was straight punk rock. We stood out. I sewed every patch onto the clothing that I had, and at points I was decked from top to bottom. When I had hair, it was either down to the small of my back or in a mohawk or multiple ones, different colors.
Right,
I was
different colors. Remember that?
dyeing my goatee. I actually bleached my goatee for so long that my roots were growing out dirty blonde.
Wow.
I could have been in a boy band, boom, just like that. But I destroyed my vocal cords singing in a metal band for a couple of years when I was younger.
Nice.
And then once we got away from that, I started playing the drums.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was going down to the spot in West Philly, it was punk rock, and it was very influential. I learned to be able to express myself. The statement, wearing it on your sleeve. I did. Like every belief I had or band I listened to had a patch on an article in my clothing.
Expression.
And I realized you don't have to be that expressive to actually get your point across. You need to lead by example and just show people, hey, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to go shoulder to shoulder with you to show you this is how I believe. And I want to be more of a motivator than just a statement, billboard.
But before that, you said you were an introvert. So like elementary, so you were Madison, right? Same as
Madison.
Right? Madison. We same path, Madison to Shady Grove.
Yep, correct.
So you were an introvert. What is that when you're a young kid? What does that equate to?
I wish I had a good answer for you.
Oh, I stumped you.
Yeah. Doesn't happen often.
I mean, I guess was it like did you just go home after school when you were younger?
And then I would probably unleash on my parents, my poor parents.
Yeah,
they've been great to me and
act out and
I had a pink goatee, purple goatee for a couple of years.
Well, before that. So I guess like when you're like 7, 8, 9, 10, do you have like friends in school, or are you an introvert then and you just kind of go home and don't go out and play?
It's more of a closer knit crowd. I got to give some shout outs to people who go way back in my life. Val Jones has been pretty much my childhood best friend since kindergarten. She actually just tagged me in a picture on Facebook where she was wearing similar face makeup on the Halloween at school as she
Nice.
was at my party just a couple of months ago. So it's a great feeling when you have that many people from your small community, like still keeping in contact with you because we're all so spread out.
Yeah. Val is Hank's sister.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Jones is, I think, been listening. So big supporter. So of me in general. So
Cool.
yeah. Shout out to all the Joneses, Hank, Val, and Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones.
Go Eagles. I know you're Steelers fans.
So, kind of an introvert growing up as a kid. What busted you out of your shell? Was it music? Was it that scene, or what? What do you think made you an extrovert? Did that happen in high school?
It was the scene, high school. I mean, you go from a small fish or a big fish in a small pond, as they say,
Yep.
to a small fish in a big pond in high school.
Mhm.
It was what's happening. So it might have seemed big to us.
Mhm.
In the grand scheme of life, it
That's
is
all
not.
we knew.
Yeah. And then you go to like that setting and being exposed to so much. It really is eye-opening. And they have a lot of strict views. I was a vegetarian for 3.5 years. I was a vegan for 4 months before it was so easy.
It wasn't a fad back then. It wasn't a thing.
No, it was tough.
What were you eating back then as a vegetarian
Dirt
slash
and
vegan?
rocks.
Like, is it rice cakes? Is it like,
It was,
or is it? I hear a lot of times when people talk about being, they're like, oh, just being a vegetarian or vegan is not healthy. You could just eat French fries all day. So
saturated fat.
So what were you eating as a vegetarian vegan in high school?
I have to give props to my mom because she didn't support me when I was doing comedy. But the funniest joke I told her was when I came home at like 13, 14 years old and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to go vegetarian." I think she's still laughing about that. So maybe if she hears this, she's going to laugh her ass off. And that was kind of the I have to prove her wrong motivation.
Yeah.
And my friends were doing it. So it was pretty simple. I had to learn to eat things green. And that was her quote. Like, you don't eat anything green. I was actually a very picky eater. It was majority like peanut butter and jelly and pizza.
But then what were you? So it's, 1996.
It was,
And
I
you're
had to start
vegetarian. What are you eating?
vegetables, fruit.
Just
Yeah.
eating healthy. Just
Yeah.
legit eating raw.
Yeah. You go around the edge of the grocery store, just
Yeah.
follow the perimeter. And that's
What got your crew doing that? You said
Animal
because
rights.
your friends. Animal rights.
Yeah.
Really? Protesting. Were you protesting?
yes,
Yeah. All right.
protesting a lot.
But were you like activism type of?
Not as hardcore as some of the people who influenced me to do that stuff. I was still a teenager going to high school, working jobs at night. So I try to do my stuff on the weekends. And it's funny when you protest, people look at you poorly.
Well, it's like a thing, where were you protesting? What type of places were you protesting?
The one specific I will always remember because there was a large amount of people. It was a nationalist convention in Doylestown.
Mhm.
And we ended up on a weird triangle, like island of a roadway.
Mhm.
And we just had signs that were like anti-racism and people in
I mean, unfocused.
people with like I know I went so far fetched.
It's so unfocused.
Like these dudes driving by with like old vans, like rusted out bumpers and stuff like that, with Bill Clinton with a Pinocchio nose on every part of their window, like spitting on us as they were driving by,
Wow.
telling us to go home.
Wow. So
Cool.
it's like 96, 97,
Yeah,
98.
have fun being white.
Yeah.
It's been easy your whole life.
So you're just, I mean, to me, it sounds like you were just fighting, I don't know, culture. Right?
A little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Is that I don't know, this is before Twitter. And so what do you do when you want to make a change, when you want things to be different? Protest. You try and figure out ways to make a cause a splash somewhere. Is that what you were is that what you were into at that time?
Yeah. I was trying to educate in what I thought was wrong. I'm still doing that to this day.
Yeah.
I will quote the founder of my Carpenters union, Peter J. McGuire, said back in 1981, agitate, educate, organize.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
been kind of my lifeblood since.
I don't know if people who are younger than us will understand, but it was not, I don't know. I don't feel like it was easy when you talk about something like that, like to have a group of people that feel the same way. I know I had frustrations that I didn't necessarily have people that agreed with me or areas where I can even express them the way that people can talk about them on Twitter and get 20 followers where they can talk about that shit all day long. It wasn't a thing you could do back then. And so for you to have a group of people, whether you were doing it the right way, the wrong way, the immature way, whatever, you had a group of people that you had a feeling of commonality with, that I think is much more accessible now. So that's why I reference it in that way. If you want to protest shit, you can protest. It's super easy. Get into a Reddit, a subreddit, a Twitter conversation, and now you're in it. But back then, if you felt a certain way, it's like, hey, you know what? I did hear about these animals and I do kind of feel this way, or I do feel this about whatever. And I do want to hold a sign. And the fact that you had some people to do that, that's kind of,
it was tough. You had to reach out to people.
Yes.
Like, print stuff, put it on telephone poles.
And look at people face to face, eye to eye.
Yeah.
Which is not something that people do now. That's the famous meme is too many people feel comfortable talking shit on social media and
Keyboard
you get punched in the
guys.
face. Yes, and you get punched in the face for it. And, back then you could find people straight up face to face, eye to eye. So were these people from school or people outside of school?
No, it was once you get involved in a scene back then, and because I had exposure to all the stuff that was going on in Philly, my branch was a little bit larger. In the counties, it's not so easy. Still to this day, well, with social media and all these technologies we hold in our pocket.
Yes.
Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier to expose ourselves with what we believed in, being involved with people from like a city scene than out in the counties. Like out in the counties, we were 4 or 5 people to a school district. Mm-hmm. And now, like when we're going down to the city, we're a couple hundred maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And we were different.
Yeah.
And we came down to West Philly before it was gentrified. People were cool with us.
That's cool.
We had conversations with them and they were cool. We never caught any flack, and it was not a good neighborhood.
Right.
That we were in.
What part of Philly?
38th and Lancaster.
Oh yeah.
Hoagie City.
Hoagie City. That sounds so
that's
yummy.
where
that's where I would want to hang.
You could go there as a young teenager and buy 40 ounces of beer.
Yeah. You could do that in Ambler. That's when I grew up in Ambler, like in South Ambler, Chestnut Street. And then, before Casey's Alley was Casey Alley, whatever that was before, it had just like a slide window. And yeah, you could just grab a 40 from Ambler at that bar there back in the day.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, see,
I didn't drink back then.
And I was in South Ambler. So it was just like a walk around the corner. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, pop them. It adds to the ambiance. Derek also brought a Dogfish 120-minute IPA, which has been aged how long, do you think?
I think we're at 4 years now.
4 years. So if this podcast goes awry, that's why.
Special occasions.
Special occasion. I like it. So middle school to high school, you kind of start getting a little bit, I don't know, organized in your thoughts and your point of view. You got some crew, you're going to the city, you've got mohawks to long hair to color hair. But at some point, and you also mentioned before we started recording, you mentioned that you have always worked since you were like 12.
As soon as I got the taste of money, I always like working with my hands.
At 12 years old, what kind of job do you do?
Anything that would pay me. If it was lawn work, working with some of the cousins, uncles, pop, my father.
Yeah.
I definitely grew up blue collar.
Yeah.
Everybody had a trade, and it was cool get my ass told to hurry up, pay attention, and get my hands dirty. And it wasn't so cool back then, but reflecting on it now, it's great because I pride myself on being able to, when somebody snaps their fingers, fixing things.
When you say hurry up, you mean as a kid, like doing a job and you're doing it kind of slow, and they're going, "Hey, hurry up because we have more shit we have to do."
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't talk. Don't think. Just listen. Are you done yet?
Yeah. So, for a little bit of time, I did some kitchen work and I cooked. I remember there was a conversation I would have because I'd always be like maybe like 10 minutes later than everyone else when we'd have to like do lineup before we'd open. And I remember the head chef pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, man, listen, like we all like you. But when you come in the morning at 6 a.m., it could take you like 25 minutes to kind of really get yourself going. 'Cause you're talking and conversating, you're a little distracted and all that. But it's like, we need you to boom, boom, boom." Is that like what you mean with hurrying? Like it was kind of like, we need you to constantly be on an urgent timeline and learn how to have fun and conversate while you're doing it and not stop and do it.
You're correct. With the kitchen profession, I don't know because I only dishwashed and served for a very short period of time. Yet I'm a food geek and I know a couple of top chefs. I'm gonna shout out to Young, owner of multiple top sushi spots in the area.
Oh, you shout them out. I want to know. I love sushi. Give me a name. Give me one.
Young Kim. He
What's his spot?
He had a little spot that was Bluefin.
Oh, yeah, Bluefin. Yeah, absolutely.
In East Norton. And it was kind of like you felt like you were in Goodfellas when you had to use the restroom through the kitchen. But I was super polite. The food speaks for itself.
Yeah.
My non-sushi fans who said they would never go there. Once I take them there, they
tell me your connection to this place, because I feel like Danielle mentioned this, and now people have been talking about it, and she's been tagging or saying like, "You should have told me," or tell me your connection again to this place. Besides your friend is there, did you do work there?
I tried to. He knew my intentions.
Okay.
He knew I just wanted to get into the kitchen, get that kind of education, something I didn't have, and I was willing to put in the hard work. Yet I brought him a beer that blew him away. And my line to him was, "You're a magician with my mouth." He said, "You keep up those compliments and bring in those beers, I'll make anything you want."
Love it.
That was like 15 plus years ago. And when the food's good and it's simple and you have a great staff and communication with people, it goes a long way. Since then, he moved down the street, like the Arbor Freight is right in the same complex. I think the Green Turtle just opened up a spot almost in a shared building. And then he opened up a spot in Ballykinwood right on City Line.
Yeah.
Out in Exton, and has ties with Umai down in Reading Terminal Market.
Yeah.
And I just like to pop my head in every once in a while.
So you're just good people to them.
That's all it is. He just had a birthday recently and announced his second pregnancy, and I popped in.
Your sister puts it out there like you are, like if you mention your name, you get 15% off the check. Like that's how your sister puts it out there.
That's not how it goes. This is still a business, and listen, I think every small town business should charge their friends an actual price, because otherwise it won't be a small town business.
I have a few friends that are bartenders, and when I go out, I like to over tip them for being friendly, for being a great bartender, but number two, for giving me extra attention and making the night extra fun. I like to over tip them for doing their job as if they're actually doing their job.
What you said about over tipping the bartenders, you should always tip your service employees, because in the States, or at least in PA, we only pay them $2.50 an hour as a wage, which is crap.
Did you ever do service work?
Very little.
What does that mean?
I worked at Spring House. My sister kind of got me in with that one.
Yeah, like retirement home type of
Correct.
stuff. Yeah. How was that? Do you have to get a tuberculosis test?
It's fun.
Fuck. I remember going to Artman Home and applying for a job there when I was a teenager, and they were like, "Yeah, you gotta get these 3 tests and the tuberculosis thing." And I was like, "Man, I always get like the flu when I get a tuberculosis test. So I don't think I'm out." Did you have anything in school? So I know you went to tech school. Obviously, that's kind of been the theme of a few episodes. Whenever people talk about tech school, you're kind of the first. So you and one of my buddies, Josh Taylor, one of my actual friends from high school, who I just saw this weekend, are kind of like two of the more the faces that kind of come to mind when people talk about tech school. But prior to tech school, did you like school? Did you like what you were? Did you like just the subjugated education, and then you have gym and alternative classes that you can take, electives? Did you like it? Was there anything you were drawn to?
School was difficult for me. Like gym, like the more alternative classes, always like work on my hands. I took things apart as a child and broke them. But even at the age of 6, I took things apart and fixed them.
Like what?
I fixed the lamp when I was a young kid, just trying to help out around the house. My parents had questions about it, and while they were discussing it, I fixed the lamp. I was 6 years old, fell asleep in their bed, and they woke me up and they asked me about it, and I thought I was in trouble. And they were like, "It works." And I'm like, "Did I do something wrong?" And they were like, "No," with a puzzled look on their face.
So when I was a kid, I loved to take stuff apart. I loved tiny screwdrivers. Once I realized there were different screwdrivers than the regular Phillips head screwdrivers, and there were like small size ones that could go into, like pocketed screw. I don't even know what the right term is, but like, when you get your stereo, your first radio, your first stereo, your first tape deck, and you go, I want to take this motherfucker apart and see what the speakers look like and see whatever. I used to do stuff like that, but I never did anything with that. At what point did, for you, taking stuff apart, trying to fix things, and this is before YouTube, the internet, before you can just look online and say, oh, I'm going to fix this lamp, I'm going to fix this whatever in the house. How did you progress through that passion and to make it an actual passion to where you say, I want to go to tech school?
I always saw my relatives, like every man in my life, being able to fix something
Hmm.
or yell at another male family member in their life because they were supposed to be good at it and not being able to fix it in the timely manner that they thought
Hmm.
was adequate. And I was just go with my hands. I really enjoyed like the time in the Boy Scouts, any wood shop I was able to take. And because of that, when I went to tech school, my aptitude test was really good.
Hmm.
So I had a difficult time in tech school because I was punk rock
Hmm.
and different. And the tech teacher gave me a hard time, which any student resents that.
At what point did you go to tech school? What grade does that happen?
For me, I went to North Monco Votech in Lansdale at ninth grade.
Ninth grade. So right. So you're not only learning. So Wissahickon is different than a lot of the other schools in our area, and that ninth grade was high school. Most of our area, ninth grade is still middle school. So you are now in a brand new school in ninth grade, and now you're also going to another brand new school for the second half of your day at North Penn, North. What is it called?
North Monco.
North Monco. That just seems so, I don't know, overwhelming. I remember my first year. I remember my first day of going to high school, and we walked through when no one else was there to kind of give us the overall landscape of the building. And then you go back when everyone's there, and it looked like a totally different building to me. I didn't remember anything because there were an extra 900 kids there. So you're going to regular school for the first, you're going to high school for the first time, Wissahickon, and now you're moving on to tech school at the second half of your day.
Yep.
Is that not overwhelming?
It wasn't because I was intrigued to be there. I wanted to see what they had to offer. It was something different. And at that point in my life, I was so interested in something different. I mean, the books weren't working for me, which is crazy because as an adult, they are now.
Yeah.
And I struggled in my earlier school years with my grades and just got by. And
Mhm.
and that sucks to say. You look back on it now and you're like, if I would have put a little bit more effort into it, maybe I would have got more out of it. Yet once I had the vocational under my belt, I wanted to go to school every day and my grades went way up.
In your other subjects.
I actually started getting A's.
You weren't engaged.
Nah, and I hope I make the parents proud on that one.
Yeah.
They've been waiting for that.
Listen, like that's I think that's, I had a conversation with someone else. I can't remember which episode, but we talked about, reading. And I was the worst um at mandated reading. I like to read. I used to read wrestling magazines and I would read pages and pages of articles and we would have assigned reading where you had to read, this book or that book. And my mom would say, he reads magazines, news stories. It's about fake fighting, but I still would read them, long articles. And that being able, my teacher was finally sent, Mrs. Lawrence, third grade, Madison. You too?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, cool. If that's what he's reading, great. Just have him write about that. And once I was able to do that, it was like, it wasn't like this chore where everything I had to do was something I was completely disinterested in. Is that what kind of became for you?
Absolutely. For me, it was car magazines, and I am still dyslexic.
Yeah.
It is difficult. I have to slow down my reading.
Did you ever know that you were dyslexic as a kid?
They didn't have it back then.
Yeah. But they did. That was a thing. That was definitely a thing. It was, so there's a lot of things that were frowned upon. And that's one of the really cool things about having you here, is because one of my fascinations with tech school in general is that I feel like it was so frowned upon. And there's so many things nowadays that I don't want to say cater to, because I feel like that means like we're taking a step down, but that we understand and learn how to integrate. And a couple of the things are mental illness, learning disabilities. And when people are dyslexic or have reading issues or just learning disabilities in general, certain things where they need to learn at a different way at a different pace, um, that wasn't a thing in the 80s and 90s that we catered to, nor were we. I didn't feel like we were accepting to.
I think in our generation, like the edge of the 90s, is when they started acknowledging that and then pumping us full of meds.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody learns differently,
Yeah.
which is why when I talk to people and I tutor and stuff along those lines, I tell people there's the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. The only dumb answer is the one I give you when you hear oh, that's a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. Everybody learns differently, and I'm definitely a product of that. So I don't want to judge anybody who took a longer time learning than somebody who was very quick. It took me till ninth grade to want to be interested in going to school and learning subjects. And I wish I would have learned more back then, yet I'm still learning every day. A lot of people want to listen to the radio on the construction site,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got Bluetooth earbuds with one earbud in, and I'm listening to audiobooks about nonverbal communication,
Mm.
poker tells,
That's
human
cool.
interaction,
Yeah.
public speaking.
When you learned that you were dyslexic, what was done about that at that point within the school, I guess?
Again, I don't have a good answer. You're asking pretty good questions.
It's okay if nothing. It's okay. If it's nothing, if it was just you were left in your normal math, English classes, then that's the answer.
I don't remember anything being done about that. It's almost comical when they're like, okay, it's public reading time for everybody in the class. We're going to go alphabetical order for embarrassment.
Yeah. Right. You're C. Yeah. You're
I'm first up.
Yeah, you're first.
Which, as a public speaker, I could care less right now if I'm first or if I'm last.
Sure. But now, as an adult, you're able to kind of arm yourself with realistic thoughts in that no one worth a damn is going to actually make fun of you now. If you take your time, everyone's going to be completely fine with that. And even just if you just gotten better, you know what I mean? Like it's just such a different world now to where back then I feel like it had a connotation. And that's where I feel like the tech school stereotype really kicked in. I mentioned with your sister and others, I feel like the reputation was that you're leaving school at 11:50. You're going to some other school somewhere. It must not be as good. That's the reputation that that's the stereotype that was kind of, but that's not the case. You were learning something valuable. How did you learn about tech school? Do you learn about it in 8th grade, 9th? When you start in 9th grade, do you learn about it in 8th grade to sign up prior to?
At the end of 8th grade, we had the privilege to learn about it, that we had the capability of going to it as long as we had interest, and the aptitude test proved that we'd be a good candidate for said fields. There was a construction cluster that I went through.
What does that mean, a cluster?
So there was multiple. There was like mechanics. There was carpentry that I went to. And I don't remember. I don't know if there was one or two others. And that is poor of me to not know them, because one of the teachers, Nelson Newton, is still very active in his retired years as to help progress the students that are there. Because once it's in your blood, you just want to get back to those people. So you get there, and for me, I loved working with my hands with people that work with their hands or labor industry. The number one rewarding industry is heavy equipment operation. In my opinion, you're just driving a big toy all day long. So you're like,
like a truck or a forklift or a
farm equipment, anything.
Yeah.
And the second is like a hard labor employee, whether it's construction or something of a mechanics level, because
with your actual hands,
at the end of the day, your fruits of labor hold an object. You can see it. Everybody can see it. And if it's a poor product, everybody can see it. If it's a quality product, everybody can see it. So there's no, said other coworker did bad moves to make my work look poor.
Right.
So with the tech school, your work is your performance. And when we were going to school, as far as I know, everybody said, go to college, go to college, go to college. And that wasn't for me. The books weren't working for me. Yet when I went to vocational school, I got special permission from a teacher who did not care for me because I was punk rock or different. And he let me take the books home.
The vocational books?
Yes.
So the vocational books stay in school normally?
I guess so. Maybe he was bluffing me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll let you take them home because you're showing some interest.
Sure.
Which is fine because it worked. I was like, he likes me, but he hates me.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it drove me to want to learn more, to try harder. And he was hard on me. It was tough. And I still got good grades, even though he was difficult on me.
What kind of class was this?
This was the carpentry cluster.
Carpenter.
Yeah. So it was general carpentry from top to bottom. So I think he got way too much pleasure out of it one time, and I'm just going by his facial response. Like I almost think like when he went around the corner, he started kicking his hands up in the air. So they teach us how to drywall and then spackle and then paint.
Mm.
And he's like, you did really good. And then he cocked his foot back so far and then put it through the wall. And he goes, now it's time to repair it, which is something we all have to do as a tradesperson.
I've done that just as a person once. Put my foot right through a drywall.
And I think, because I know the look on my face was like, oh, my project. As my voice goes up.
This is 15-year-old you, though.
My project.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm pretty sure he giggled to himself. And he goes, yeah, finally got that little punk rock effort. Yet him being tough on me challenged me and made me better. And I finished 92nd percentile in the state.
Wow. Is this senior? That's for senior year? Yeah.
And
what's the progression from 9th grade through 12th, 4 years through vocational technical school? You start in the carpentry cluster?
It's pretty basic. It's like an advanced wood shop from what you would see in like maybe 4th, 5th grade to middle school.
Tech ed type of stuff.
Correct.
Cutting some stuff, learning how to do some measurements.
Yeah. Messing around, not paying attention. And that's where I believe the whole stereotype of not paying attention to other classes comes from.
But you had to take all your core classes. You had to take English, social studies, science, math. I
finished my mainstream class in 11th grade for math.
You're just not taking music.
Oh, I took music.
You took music too?
Hell yeah.
What are you missing when you go to tech school? What is it that you're not when you leave for the second half of the day? So I feel like music would be one of those.
Yeah, but I'm a boss in music.
You worked it in anyway. Like not music, chorus. Like did you miss chorus? Did you miss?
I did miss chorus.
Yeah, so
I missed a lot of that stuff, and you could fill that in after high school, right?
Yeah.
Can you? Sure.
Yeah.
You could fill it all in after high school.
Yeah, I mean, as an activity in general, I was just curious in reality, what was it that what was I taking that you weren't getting in your curriculum?
Got all my mainstream classes. Yeah. Ran through math.
So the whole stereotype of they're leaving halfway through the day. By the way, we're in the market and there's a motorcycle outside. Just want to let people know that.
It's a weak motorcycle. He needs a bigger motor.
I like that you can hear that.
Yeah.
So the idea that you're leaving school halfway through the day to get out of your classes, it's completely false because you're taking all of your major subjects. You're just not taking electives.
Correct. Everybody, I can't say everybody, majority of the people on that bus wanted to go to that school, wanted to learn. We all had a bond. We all still kind of like talk about it. So I'm now on the occupational advisory committee for North Monaco. And when I post on social media about going there, people give me a little attaboy, little social media pat on the back. And then they comment and say like, I got my career because of that. And I'm still working in that field.
Yeah.
20 years later, it's a great feeling.
I know my friends always kind of thought that they were going to work on cars or construction in some way. Did you know that once you're kind of in the swing of things with construction, carpentry, you're now kind of 10th, 11th grade. Did you know that this is what you're going to do? Did you feel that or?
Absolutely. I don't think, and I forget which the titles of them were, if it was co-op or PI-op. I don't think I was able to get into that in my 11th grade year yet. I did get into it my 12th grade year, where you can leave for a day or two and go start participating in that trade with a company that is basically sponsoring you, which is similar to what we do with my union, and then go back to school You got to achieve because now you have less days at school to achieve and still be in the program where you get to go and earn money and be active in the workforce.
Yeah.
So it's not as difficult, or it is as difficult as being in regular school. Is that the term everyone wants to use?
When you say work, is that after school?
No.
Or is that's like once you leave Wissahickon?
Correct.
At like 11:50?
Correct. You would actually, and it's tough for companies because they're taking on
half an employee.
Yeah. a child. It's not even half an employee. It's
training someone to work with them who you know is going to leave by the time they graduate.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, possibly. And
how does that work for you? So you're in the cluster of carpentry. Automatically, you're like, this. I want to do carpentry. I want to stay in carpentry. This is absolutely. There was no like, hey, maybe I need to get into mechanics or plumbing, or it was. This is you were cool to where the path you were on once you were in your path in Votech.
I was. With the other clusters, I gravitated towards that one, and I've excelled at it ever since. I built 6 custom homes out of the ground, whether it was going to the middle of a field with surveyor equipment.
Not yet, Ed. You weren't, though. You were just...
We went through that stuff. It was pretty basic back then. The programs are pretty good, and that's why I still like to donate material and equipment that I get because of my exposure to my profession and my union to the vocational school.
But when you're in high school and you're taking these classes, you're not building houses.
We did my senior year.
Really?
Yes, we built a rancher. It was a modular home.
Yeah.
And
which is all the craze now. Everyone's into tiny homes, modular homes. That's what everyone loves now.
Do they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Millennials love that shit. What was the point where you realized carpentry is there's so many different aspects of construction, building things, taking things apart. You're doing lamps when you're a kid. It's electronic. At what point did you realize carpentry specifically, this is what I want to do?
The woodworking aspect really caught my attention. There's so many different avenues you can go with that. And now the products out there, MDF, medium density fiberboard, is just glued together fine sawdust. It's a junk product unless you're excessively gluing it and painting it. That's it. But that's what most speaker cabinets in your house, in your vehicle are made out of. When I knew I wanted to push through because I was having a hard time with the instructor, it was either late 10th grade or early junior year. And I went to the guidance counselor and I mentioned like dropping out and starting my own business. Now, in her head, she was probably laughing at me.
Is this the one that put his foot through your wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kept going like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was tough on me.
Yeah.
I mean, as you should be. And I'm a product of tough love and support. And this instructor or this guidance counselor said to me, most guys can't make it in his class. 2 weeks to 2 months.
Wow.
And you've been there for 2 years.
Wow.
Why don't you give me another couple months and then we come back and have a conversation?
Wow.
So I'm sure she probably went and said something to him like, hey,
lighten up.
He's
made it this far.
Yeah.
You're close to breaking him. Let him make it.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
And I don't think he lightened up that much, but maybe that was the boost of confidence I needed. Yeah. And then I got into the union. I think it was like roughly a year after graduating, building a bunch of homes. Like I said, I built 6 custom homes out of the ground.
Before that, though, before you joined the union, though, so what is graduation like for tech school?
You get that wall hanger in the mail.
But what is the actual curriculum for graduating in tech school?
Passing.
Just like the work you were doing. So you did a modular home.
Yeah, Tom Ridge gave me a little signature on a certificate.
That's cool. Was that cool? Was that not cool to you? You've got two graduations happening. I guess I'm trying to find the dichotomy of you're graduating from regular old public school Wissahickon, but you're also graduating from tech school.
That's a good way to look at it. I never looked at it like that before, and I should have.
Yeah.
Because I was so ready to join the workforce at that point that I never looked at it like that. I was probably too confident. I got this. 92 percentile, Tom Ridge sign right here. Got this.
So everything that this show is kind of like built on as far as like Wissahickon specific and graduating, going on, all that was, I don't mean it as as a jokingly slight to me. I just mean it's kind of interesting that, people who are just in Wissahickon specifically and you're graduating, you're looking at, that was never your focus in any way. It really was all about tech school and going off into the workforce, what they were preparing you for.
When you put it like that, I have to reflect on it. Yeah.
Yeah. At any point were you like, you're still doing your other major subjects at Wissahickon. At any point were you thinking, I like this, I want to do this in regular school? You were always straight to the workforce with tech school.
No, I loved my hometown crew. Love growing up in Ambler. I love knowing that I came from Wissahickon. One of the electives I got to take, one was woodshop, one was CAD, with my man, Mr. Dixon. And I was the only senior in both classes. It was weird.
Yeah. What's that like? So it's all underclassmen with you.
It was just weird. Like I was so focused because like with woodshop, I had already had all of that. So I was a pro. So he kind of looked at me in that class like, you better bring your A game because I'm relying on you to pick up the underclassmen. One of my childhood best friends, Mike Mastroni, was in that class. And so like kind of put him under my wing. I was like, I'll get you through this. And it's simpler, but it's skills that everybody should learn. How to just cut wood, make it square, use the correct nails, fasteners. Always use nails now. Sometimes they're screws.
Yeah.
Soft voice interjection.
When everyone's graduating and looking at college, you're not looking at college.
Not even.
That wasn't the thing to do. I feel like the connotation was weak. If you were not going to go to college, if you were going to get a job, you were getting a job because you couldn't go to college. I feel like that was the reputation that everyone would kind of spread around. How did you feel about?
I saw the numbers and the construction
financial numbers. Yeah.
I did not.
So the public perception never swayed you, worried you, none of that. It was about the money for you.
I saw the numbers.
You had a passion, but then the numbers just solidified it.
I mean, who could turn themselves away from that? Coming right out of high school, you've already been working in the field that you love and reflect on every day. And now they're saying like, all right, you're going to be making twice the minimum wage.
All right.
To start out.
I mean, you understand how this is so different from everyone else, where we're all geared towards college. And normally at this point, I would ask you, is there something you wanted to do? But you were doing this already you were working at 12 years old. You were taking stuff apart. This is what you wanted to do. It just so happened that Wissahickon had a partnership with this school for you to be able to go there. And it just kind of fell into place. There was no other avenue that you dreamed yourself of being in. You wanted to work, and you wanted to work with your hands.
Absolutely. And I want to go on a little bit of a tangent because I got to start with a family-owned construction company. And they exploited me a little bit. I was saying those numbers earlier, and they weren't justified what I was getting with them. I didn't get any health benefits, which is junk. They relied on the benefits I got from being under my mother's wing.
Right.
And I think it was a 5th or 6th house I built. The guy I was working on a Saturday, and the owner of the company came in with like the box truck with all the tools in it and took my car and went and drove off to go do estimates. That's what he told me. And I, at 17, 18 years old, was left with working on a house with subcontractors. They had that much confidence in me. And the guy, I'm going to say his name, don't get weird, Harry Johnson. He came over and was like, "Hey man, what are you doing here on a Saturday by yourself?" Told him the story. I asked him, "What the F do you do? And you're just Fing around in your garden." And he's like, "I just retired from the Carpenters Union." Funny enough, I just passed the test. He said, "Let me put you in touch with a guy who will take care of you." And that was the one little connection I need, because I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Nobody from the union came out to my vocational school or any of the schools like we do now, like I do now.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed, was that one little foot in the door, was from that guy. And I got to see him like 6 years after that. And I was like, "Dude, I owe you like a bottle of wine or a beer at the bar."
Yeah.
I ended up buying a house like right across one of the rivers from him. My first house I bought back in 2004. And it's all been uphill since then. And that's the thing with my union. Once you come and take our test, we pay you to go to school. You get college credits for completing our program. You get benefits from the moment you get in. I don't want to do the hard math right now. Yeah,
No math.
I'm really good at it. I'm just going to keep the averages.
Round it off.
When you're in the city, it's almost $50 an hour plus like $30. These are all rough numbers for fringe benefits. And in the counties, it's over $40 an hour to start. You get 40% of that to start.
Wow.
And we pay you and we educate you while we're doing it.
When you talked about classes, where does that, when you talk about like taking classes after the fact, where does that all happen?
We have one large school down in Northeast Philly, not far from the Nabisco plant.
Yeah.
We have one up
what is the school?
The Joiner Apprentice Committee.
Okay.
And we teach all the trades. So we do millwrights, floor laying, pile driving, and then every aspect.
Pile driving?
Yes.
Now, you know I'm a big wrestling fan.
That's not what you're thinking.
It's not.
It's bridge building.
Oh, God.
So it's underwater welding.
Oh,
it is
God.
badass.
I thought it was like, oh, listen, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff was pretty badass in his day, okay, with the pile driver. I just want to make sure we're not talking about the same thing here, because some of my audience could get confused.
We are not talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Big cranes with
look at where you are
hydraulically.
Here. You're.
Well, when I turn around, I see your masturbation room.
So you can see here how the pile driving could get very confusing here when you just drop that.
On that spectrum, this is one of the reasons I had hit Brad up, is because I wanted to shout out to the crowd possibly listening to getting into the trades, because we want you. We want you to get into the trades. We want you to sign up for our apprentice program. We don't have a set date coming up this year. We will after the new year. So the phone number for the JAC, that's the Carpenters Apprentice Program for the Philadelphia Carpenters Union, is 824-2300. Yet the number for the audio version of when they're taking applicants for the testing is the same number, yet at the end it's 2300-03. So it's 215-824-2303.
And that's to take the test.
That's the sign up for the test.
Do you recommend that people be involved in tech school already?
No.
So this is something that even if you've been in just 4 years of high school.
I've had apprentices that were in their 50s.
Wow. So you could be at any stage really and just have a passion and want to work.
Yes.
And make money.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm one of the people who do the tutoring sessions. We have them all over the states that we are involved in because we care about the members. We want people to get in. We want people to get involved.
What's that process like? So you call the number and what happens? You sign up for the test?
Correct. So you'll sign up for the test and they'll give you the set date. We have to wait for the date to be set.
So you just legit don't know yet when for 2020 the test will actually be between the month of December 2019 and say February 2020?
No.
All right. So will you do me a favor and keep me updated so that over the next bunch of, 3 to 4 weeks, 6 weeks as the podcast continues to go on, this will be here, but I will be able to give that update for people when that test actually happens.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
You can follow me. Well, you can follow my union on social media.
Yeah, you can give it anything you want people to follow you on.
Friends of local Carpenters Union, Local 167, or KML, Keystone Mountain Lakes Council is our large version of our council. And we are trying to step up our social media game.
So you take the test and then what happens? You say you pass.
70%. You need a 70% to pass.
Okay. So you get 70% and you've passed, and now you are now going to be an apprentice in the union?
You need to get a sponsor.
Okay. Say you don't know me and say I say, I've heard this podcast and I want to do this and I want to take this test, and I take the test. I find out that it's, say it's sometime in beginning of January. We'll tell you when it is on the podcast. We'll keep you updated, but say it's somewhat time in early January. I take the test. I get a 79. I get an 82. What happens next? Someone reaches out to me?
Correct. We will find you.
Okay.
We will hook you up with a job. We will try to make it geographically based where you are and get you a job. We want to employ you. We want you to be a member.
And the act of finding a sponsor, this comes after you're notified?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So 70% you graduate, you pass or you fail.
Mm-hmm. So then how do you go about the sponsor aspect of it?
If you do not know somebody, you put your name on a list, and there's people like me who are just reaching out to you constantly.
There's people who want to include you in
our
the
members care. There's a
and
lot of our members volunteering time.
That's cool.
Saying like, hey, as long as you give a crap, we give a crap.
Did you have a sponsor?
No.
I
had to fight for it.
Wow. Why?
Didn't know anybody, which is why I'm reflective right now.
Yeah.
Nobody came out to my trade school and said, hey, there's an organization that will back you from the moment you start working.
How long did it take you then to find like the Carpenters Union?
6 homes.
Wow. So you graduate from Wissahickon. You graduate from tech school. What's the first thing that happens for you from a post-graduation perspective? Just what happens for you to start making money in your situation?
Make money. Just start working nonstop 6 days a week.
But that's what I mean. How do you just start saying, hey, I've graduated, or the people that you've been working with say you're on now?
I was already working with that company.
How do you learn what the fuck's going on in the industry?
We tell you from day one.
Okay.
We're teaching you, we're paying you an hourly wage while you're at school. And the members on the job are telling you, like, there's members like me all over the place. I'm a part of a great organization, and they tell you they're going to bust your chops a little bit. It's just, you worked in the kitchens.
Yep.
There's some stuff they're going to put you through.
Chefs are sick. Chefs are some of the sickest human creatures that could ever. Head chefs, they're not right.
Hazing is fun to a certain extent.
So is that what you're saying? Yours was kind of.
I'm all for, like, the term hazing, as you say.
Was yours painful? I guess.
No, because that's what I mean. Like, you can. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, like the bucket of steam. Hey, kid, go get a bucket of steam.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
So what do you do?
I saw one guy do it. There was a slops thing down in the basement, and it had scalding hot water, which was great for the guys who were cleaning the spackle off their tools. And he filled up a small portion of water in a bucket and brought it up with the lid on it, opened it up, steam came out, and I was clapping from across the room.
Yeah. That's like in high school when they would ask, when we first came to high school, they warned us about asking where the bathroom is. And when they tell you that it's on the second floor by the pool, there is no second floor or pool.
So what were they going to do?
You just go up there and you just look as a stupid freshman.
I used to get kids with like simple ones. There was the aluminum laser card magnet.
Aluminum laser card magnet. Let me try and think about what this might be. So this is aluminum. It's a card that shoots a laser, but if you were put it on your refrigerator,
you are overthinking it.
It would stick.
I gotta cut you off.
Wait, let me try one more time. Say it one more time.
Aluminum laser card
magnet. Laser magnet.
Aluminum laser card magnet.
The laser card's messing me up.
I know. So
fill me in.
It's a card that has a magnet on it that we can stick to metal studs, metal ceiling grid, and when we set the laser up, we just
it's just multi-purpose.
Yeah,
it's a multi-purpose card.
Simple.
That's great.
Yeah, it's ferrous metals and not ferrous metals. So with the aluminum, the magnet's not going to stick. It doesn't exist.
All right. Aluminum's
not now. Jesus. So I would send these apprentices.
So stupid right now. You got me.
I'd send these apprentices to the gang box to look for it. I'm like, hey, if it sticks to the gang box, it's not the. Meanwhile, I'm done
You're doing the whole day's work, and
this guy who I did
that's
that
clean
to actually owns a company now. It's pretty successful.
What when you've now graduated, now you're working in that era, you're a year or two. I imagine that I know not all your friends went to college, but I imagine people that and went to college from high school. What was your kind of thought process as they're away? You're making money, obviously, but was there any kind of feeling about that? Just, it's so different in life, right? The people you've all grown up with, I imagine, 80% of them are gone now to college, and you didn't want to do that. You wanted to work, you wanted to make money, but was there any, I don't know.
First 5 years, the 5-year reunion, I still felt like the have not. 10-year reunion, those more privileged kids were asking me to get them a job.
Yeah.
I was, I think at that point, 2 properties in my name. Bought my first property at 24 and helping out renovate all the properties that have my last name on it, regardless of who owned them. And then that was the height of the recession.
I was just going to say 10 years prior, so you graduate 99.
Yeah.
10 years at that point was 99. It was 09, and anyone that hasn't seen The Big Short. that's, that's when people were buying houses that they couldn't afford, were being given loans that they were never going to be able to pay. And bubbles were bursting heavy.
And that was on anybody who.
It was everyone. No, a lot of people were not immune from that. And it's not just real estate. It was stock market. It was everything. Everything was crashing. The banks, and
shit rolls downhill.
Very much so. So I've always been curious about this, because this is one of the things that when we talk about tech school that we discuss, or at least that I bring up, that I think is super important now. That when we were growing up and the internet started, we all kind of thought that like .com and all that was going to be huge. And then when we graduated in 2001, the .com thing kind of burst, the bubble burst on the internet. And then 2008 happened and the real estate bubble burst. But the reason why I've been so, I don't know, strong about my opinions of, fuck, I wish I knew about tech school better, more, or I wish I pushed myself to learn a trade the way other friends had learned a trade at that point, was because I wish that while I'm a media guy, it's a bubble. And, content is premium right now, but 6 years ago, it wasn't. There weren't networks everywhere that were just trying to buy content. And I wish I could have saved myself $100 to do this, or $100 to do this, or $350 to do that. It's almost economy proof. No one's ever said, don't work a job where you can make $30, $40 an hour. That's just, no one's ever said, don't be a plumber. Like, that's just not a thing that people not ever need. They need people to work on their houses. They need people to build things. They need people to, nothing else exists without what you learn to do doing.
We create the foundation for everybody to have a roof over their head.
Yeah. So as that's all happening, what is that like for you as you're seeing, you talk about 10 years later, people are kind of like, hey, do you have, as you're seeing that kind of progress, and I know you said for the first 5 years, you kind of felt, but then the next 5 years and so on, what's that kind of like to watch that progression happen?
It was tough. I was very fortunate. I had a couple properties, and I went from working a 40-hour work week to starving myself, like working around the clock after that. Yet while I was going to that 40-hour work week, there was guys showing up on jobs asking to sell their tools, or for me to put metals on the side of the dumpster outside the fence so they can go and scrap it, which we had to do because they were going to break into the job anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And with the real estate adventure, nobody told me that there was a recession about to hit. So I had to work around the clock just to break even over a 27-month period.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was bad. And I've always put money aside because of that. And it was tough. We had an investor hold out for 10 months, which is why it was a 27-month adventure.
Uh-huh.
So I learned a lot of what not to do in real estate because of that adventure. Our economy in this area, just like every other part of the economy in the country, was hit. We weren't hit that bad. In Florida, and many points in Florida, it was 3-to-1, 5-to-1 on their payouts. And here, like a $250 house was going for like $180 if it was in poor condition.
That's not much.
That's not awful.
No.
I've had friends that got short saled, yet it wasn't terrible. And we have so many pharmaceutical manufacturers in this area.
Mm-hmm.
We've got nuclear plants, oil refineries.
Yeah.
The largest retail square footage mall in the country. I don't care what the Mall of America says. We don't need a roller coaster.
Willow Grove, Plymouth Meeting, Montgomery.
Bro.
Plymouth Meeting? I have no idea.
King of Prussia.
Oh my God. I never go there. Jesus, you're right. Jesus, it is an abyss there. God damn it. I never go to that place.
It's crazy to think because we have.
Well, Montgomery County is right now the number, because I said it in the last podcast with Kim, but Montgomery County was at the time the number one, the wealthiest county in Pennsylvania. Now it's number 2, but it is up there in the top 3 and has been since we've grown here.
We are super fortunate.
Yeah.
Especially being Ambler based, Wissahickon based. We grew up, we were kind of like the black eye on the county when, I don't know, whatever asshole news reporter, I wish I knew his name, said like we were the crack haven of the area and showed the theater with the missing letter.
In Ambler?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And like our parents were making, like they were like, this is a good area. Like we can.
It was being built. I mean, when you look at it now, our parents staying there as long as, and we all grew up there, built that place to stay with families of 3, 4, 5, buying homes.
I got outbid on so many properties in that
allowed
area.
That place to become what it is now, to be a mini knockoff Manayunk.
Absolutely. That's a great description of it.
Yeah. Or Conshohocken, or, you know, any one of those. It's just not a long enough. Butler Pike's just not a long enough street to be a Conshohocken. But our parents lived, bought houses, rented, paid in taxes, school district, all that, for it to become, not long after we grew up there, a pretty booming town.
Yeah.
It's pretty good when you look at towns like, when you look at cities like Detroit, that Philadelphia, parts of Philadelphia that just can't overcome.
I know. I got a lot of pride when it comes to Ambler.
Yeah.
So I'm down here crushing this podcast.
So when you're doing carpentry and houses now are on the low, 2008, 9, 10, does that affect the industry?
No, it was booming after that. People couldn't wait to start buying again.
Wow.
Because people had to downsize, move back into uncomfortable settings, parents, other family members. So they couldn't wait to buy and move back out. And we are a very reflective market for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, business, I mean, it was tough for me. I didn't have to suffer too much. I had to start focusing too much of my time to get that property. And when I say like break even, I lost 27 months of profits just to get to the market price number.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough.
Do you still have that property?
No.
So it's gone. You just wash your hands of it, and whatever you lost, or whatever you broke even on, you broke even on.
Took me a couple of years before I could even drive by it.
Yeah. Wow, it's tough.
Well,
I mean, that's something that people, I hope, don't have to experience. That was a real thing in our era.
Yeah, I went to Hatfield University, everything not to do in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a good, hard education.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
It could be worse. It could be worse. You rebounded. You're able to rebound. What's that like for the industry as things start to ramp back up again for you 7 years ago?
We had to accelerate the Apprentice testing date because we knew how many high rises were coming out of the ground. If we don't have that younger workforce ready by the time the warmer weather hits, concrete's being poured, steel's being set on top of it, we're behind the 8 ball. We're behind the curve. So just like every part in the country, we got hit, yet we didn't get hit as bad as everybody else. And It's one of the reasons I love this area. We're so resilient. We came out of there like a rocket, being
Yeah.
shot out of a cannon, fist up in the air.
Yeah. Where was your general work? Where was that base? Was it Philadelphia? Was it in the suburbs? Where were you doing your work?
My local union is based out of the suburbs of Philadelphia, yet I work everywhere, which is the privilege I have for being
Mhm.
a union member. I can go up to Maine. I can go up to Canada, Alaska,
Wow.
California, Hawaii. I can work anywhere in the country and get paid the rate.
That
Yes.
your class deserves
Yes.
is mandated.
Yeah. Because we are educated and we have proof of it. I
Mhm.
traveled a little bit. I had so many roots here and I love staying involved and trying to better the union in the area. So it kind of kept me from straying outside to other counties, states,
Yeah.
all of that. I've seen so many of my brethren that I've met over the years at our international training center. One guy who
Where's that at?
in Vegas.
Vegas. Nice.
It's
Nice.
as soon as I say that, everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
No, I listen. I've done business stuff in Vegas, so I know what that's like. You get
You have to keep your game face
Yep.
on. Like we have a campus,
Yep.
and if you, it's like almost a 10-minute ride to New Vegas. It's like a 15-minute ride to Fremont, like old Vegas.
Yep.
And you can go be an adult.
Sure.
If you don't come back and get your stuff done, you're out the program.
There's real hours. Yeah, there's real hours happening, and you gotta be able to
You
hold
don't
it
have to
down.
leave our campus. Like everything's free when you're there.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's a gym, a bar, a cafeteria.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave,
Yeah.
but you got to leave a little bit.
A little bit. It's Vegas.
You got to be an adult.
What's your favorite thing to do in the work space?
The most custom work, I want a challenge. I want a challenge all day, every day, whether it's communication or with my hands. I did almost 5 years in King of Prussia Mall,
Hmm.
and the custom work that you do in there is great. And what sucks about the King of Prussia Mall is if your store that you built isn't making it, they are cutthroat. You are gone. The rent is too high there.
Wow.
So you are out.
But your store the store you built stays. They just put another tenant in.
No, they tear that stuff down.
Really, the whole store gets torn down.
Oh, yeah. Well,
The space gets torn down.
yeah.
Wow. I don't go to the King of Prussia Mall ever.
Yeah, I can't afford it.
Yeah, I just don't live near there, and I won't drive there. The Nordstrom rack is pretty sweet there, though. It's my favorite Nordstrom rack.
Yeah. I love building custom stuff. I'm still working.
Is it the design aspect, or is it the grandiose, unique?
It's the grandiose. I mean, the terminology now is like, oh, you can't do that. Hold my beer.
Mhm.
Bring it. As soon as somebody's like, oh, that's too difficult or complex, I'm like, step aside, kid.
I got it.
I don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
If you don't want the challenge.
If I could take it back to high school, did you have a favorite class outside of tech? Did you have an aspect of school that you truly enjoyed outside of tech school from the Wissahickon standpoint?
I really enjoyed the one home ec class. I excelled in the class. I was a vegetarian at the time. And that was one of the things, like after being done math in 11th grade, they were like, you have to take electives. So I said, all right, as long as they don't make me eat meat.
Mhm.
Like Wissahickon was going to put their knee on your throat like Nazi Germany
Mhm.
and put meat down.
You're gonna eat this Texas
You're gonna
Tommy.
fucking eat it.
Texas Tommy's my favorite cafeteria lunch.
So I was good with my hands at the time. And that's one of the traits or trades, crafts I might actually pursue when I'm retired is
Home like cooking.
yeah,
Yeah,
and everything.
I could see that.
I won a food competition recently.
I feel like we've kind of like gone through. Was there anything that you specifically? I mean, I want to hit on some of the union stuff as far as the official what you're looking for enrollment and stuff. But was there anything in general that you were hoping to talk about that we didn't hit on?
If we haven't spoke about it, you can hit me up on social media, Derek Cataldi, DerekCataldi. If not, uh, friends of Carpenters Local Union 167, hit us up. We want to organize you. We want to better ourselves. We want to better you. That being said, Brad, what's the main reason you wanted to do this podcast?
For me, just as a, from a producer standpoint, we've talked about you now 3 times. Your sister's been on the show. She hates when we talk about you. So I just felt like it was a really natural progression to hear it straight from you rather than to talk about the stereotypes of what the idea of a tech school student was, and to hear really, the benefits of going through the actual system. And I saw it because I worked at Wawa. And so at 7 a.m., when I'd be there for my morning shift, you'd be there getting coffee. So I knew you were grinding on the weekends, making money. And I respect that. And I think all that is super relevant and interesting and fascinating with today, because it's what you hear people talking about now. When you hear about, people who have lost with skills that aren't used anymore, when you talk about people who are in coal mines and people who, work in certain tech industries and they're just not a thing anymore. And you go, well, what are we going to do with it? And then I think about you for 20 years, you haven't run out of work. Building houses, cutting wood, designing shit has not gone out of style. It hasn't died. So all that is really, really, really interesting to me. And I think in the same way as, hearing about Jason Herb and his battles with alcoholism, I think hearing from Derek Cataldi and his successes with working with his hands and not being afraid of the stigma and pushing towards a passion of building stuff. I think it's a great story for people who are in the age that we were in then to hear about, to feel like they can learn from that. It's a 9-minute answer, but that's all the reasons why.
That's not 9 minutes. It was a very confident and well-spoken answer.
Thank you.
So on that, how is this podcast and your spectrum and relevance with the communication industry been a confidence builder for you?
I never realized that people that we went to high school with actually cared about that era. I never thought that people outside of myself and maybe a few others had an actual interest in revisiting or thinking about what they were going through at that time, and to think that things could be done differently, or to think that they were thinking about things in the wrong way compared to how they think about things now, or just in the fact that they just don't even relate to that person that they were then. When you release these episodes, people comment on things where you just go, oh wow, I see things exactly the way so and so sees them. But 14 years ago, that wasn't the case. And just life has brought a lot of people to a very similar point of view.
I wouldn't change anything I went through. Hardships, none of it. And some of it I suffered through, as every human being should to a certain aspect.
Sure.
Would you change anything?
That I did?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know that I had the tool set to change them. I wish I could have been more focused on education. I wish I could have gotten a more head start. I don't know that I would have changed my point of view in like a trade, but I wish that I had taken myself mentally to where I am today to, be able to create this podcast or other things that I've created in my past from a creative standpoint. I think I didn't believe in my own ideas that they were unique enough or special enough, or I used to think that everyone had this exact same idea, or what I was thinking wasn't cool. I wish I had the confidence then to move forward, because I think I could have put this podcast out 15 years ago.
That being said,
Yeah,
you could have.
I could have. I 100% could have, but I didn't believe in the idea or in the thought that people. I didn't think about how people thought back then. My brain wasn't able to think about how other people thought. And so the idea of, over the last like year or so, thinking like, no, I know other people think this way. I know this is good. That wasn't my mindset back then. I think I thought that I was still an outlier mentally. And I think I thought my creativity was weird and out there. And I think a lot of the stuff that I did in college, I thought was off brand from what people expected from me. And now I think I'm more comfortable with creating my own brand and showing people what my brand is, rather than what people get from my 10-minute interaction with them define my brand.
Your brand, this title of this podcast, is fucking incredible.
Oh, thank you.
And I actually think it is going to broadcast a lot of copycats. Are you prepared for that?
It worries me.
Don't fear it.
I can't control it.
Correct. Gary Vaynerchuk. Embrace that shit.
I love Gary V.
Yeah. So do you like that you're doing it now?
Oh, I love it. This is what I envisioned the podcast to be.
You've done an incredible job. You've presented an idea that people have probably held in their minds for so many years, and you have become an excellent communicator and a great listener. And I am so thankful that you would have me here just to shoot the shit and have a drink with me.
I'm thankful. It's funny. I feel like, people are like, they're thankful. I'm thankful. Part of this is, no lie, this is a part of this is gaining friendships that I never had. And so, when I have people over and we talk about the cool kids or punk or hard rock or goth or whatever, when you're 16, 15, or in my case, I was probably 13, 14 when you were, 16, 17, I didn't have that comfortability to forge a relationship. And so I'm extremely thankful that, with interviews like this and previous ones I did, that I'm able to forge an actual real relationship where there's no real gimmicks with this. We're just sitting up in my other room and having a conversation about life. And it's not okay, mic's off, get out of my house. It's we talked for 40 minutes downstairs before we ever recorded.
Correct.
So it's authentic. And so I'm very thankful to be able to redefine my mental summary of what high school was. I'm having a lot more understanding for the way that I grew up and the way that other people grew up, despite the way that they happened.
So I don't think it's justified for me to sign your yearbook. I didn't graduate from your year. I will. I just don't think it's justified.
So there's been some other people that have signed it that are not in the yearbook. So I think you just sign it wherever.
Cool.
Wherever there's an open space.
You ready for caveman handwriting?
Now there's a you got a pen. Perfect. I was gonna say there's a bunch of pens on here. On the table here. Whatever one works is the one that you can use. He just drew on his hand to make sure. People wrote long paragraphs. I'm telling you, I didn't.
Where did this podcast come from?
I was not friends with any of these people.
There's paragraphs.
I must have Mercy asked, please sign my yearbook. Please.
I might have to write something small just to belittle you. What? Where do I?
Oh, God.
How deviant would it be for me to write on somebody else's?
Just right over all of their. Also, I just want to note that while I am wearing headphones, there is a fucking radio somewhere in this building. It must be downstairs that they leave on because I can hear it on the microphone. It drives me nuts. You're writing really small.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. And hit me up if you have any questions. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask me. Ka-chow.
That's great. All right. That was Derek Cataldi. I'm a big fan of podcasts, and some of my favorite podcasts over the years made habits out of dropping holiday episodes. And so that's something that I kind of wanted to be able to do on my podcast. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. And I hope people who maybe don't know Derek or are listening because they're interested in trade or, the union, I hope this was something that was enlightening for you. We'll let you know when the testing is going to be. But in the meantime, you can call the Carpenters Apprentice School of Philadelphia. That is 215-824-2300. And like Derek said, he's willing to talk to you too. And so maybe if you're someone who already has experience, you don't have to be an apprentice to do the work and have a better chance at wages. And so you can reach out to Derek directly and he will help put you in the right path. For me, of course, one more time, the social media. We Weren't Friends in High School is the Instagram, no apostrophe, WWF in High School on Twitter. And you can get me at REDSHIRTPLAYA everywhere. As promised, this pod will drop again on Monday, as normally scheduled, Monday morning with Christian Warren. And finally, of course, it is Thanksgiving, so I hope that everyone has a healthy, safe, fun holiday. Don't put yourself at risk. Don't do anything stupid. And don't spend too much money on Black Friday. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great holiday. Gobble, gobble.